First Samuel chapter 6 recounts a significant event, the return of the Ark of the Covenant to Israel after being captured by the Philistines. This chapter is a pivotal moment in the history of the Israelites, showcasing the profound impact of the Ark and its divine significance. The Ark, a sacred chest containing the tablets of the Ten Commandments, was not just a religious symbol, but a representation of God's presence among his people. The Philistines had seized the Ark in battle, hoping to gain power over the Israelites. They believed that possessing this sacred object would grant them victory and dominance over their enemies. However, their understanding of the Ark's true power was limited. However, their victory was short-lived. The Ark's presence among the Philistines brought unforeseen consequences. The presence of the Ark brought calamity upon them, afflicting them with tumors and misfortunes. The once triumphant Philistines found themselves in a state of distress and confusion as the divine power they sought to harness turned against them. The Philistines, realizing the Ark's power and their error, decided to return it to Israel. Their leaders convened and deliberated on the best course of action, understanding that they needed to appease the God of Israel to end their suffering. They placed it on a new cart, accompanied by an offering of golden tumors and rats, symbolizing the plagues they endured. These offerings were meant to acknowledge their afflictions and seek forgiveness. This act, though motivated by fear, demonstrated their acknowledgement of Yahweh's power. The return of the Ark marked a significant moment of reverence and recognition of divine authority, bridging a momentary gap between the Philistines and the Israelites. The Philistines' troubles began after they captured the Ark of the Covenant, a sacred chest that held the tablets of the Ten Commandments. This was a significant event as the Ark was considered the most powerful symbol of God's presence among the Israelites. The Philistines placed the Ark in the temple of their god Dagon, believing that their victory over the Israelites was complete and that their God had triumphed over the God of Israel. They celebrated their perceived triumph with great joy and festivities, confident that their god, Dagon, had proven superior. However, their celebration was short-lived. The very next morning, an unsettling sight greeted them. They found the statue of Dagon fallen, face down before the Ark, as if bowing in submission to the God of Israel. They set Dagon upright again, thinking it was a mere accident, but the following day the same thing happened. This time, Dagon was not only prostrate but also broken, with his hands and head severed, lying on the threshold of the temple. Furthermore, the Philistines were struck with painful tumors, a clear sign of divine displeasure and judgment. This series of events made it abundantly clear that the God of Israel was far more powerful than their idols, leaving the Philistines in awe and fear of his might. The Philistines, in their desperation, decided to send the Ark away. They crafted a guilt offering of golden images of the tumors and rats that plagued them. This act was significant. It demonstrated that they recognized the plagues as divine judgment from the God of Israel. They placed the offering with the Ark on a new cart, hoping to appease the God of Israel. They also sent along 2 milk cows to pull the cart, a test to see if it was indeed God's will for the Ark to return to Israelite territory. The Ark's journey back to Israel, though seemingly a simple historical event, holds profound theological implications. It was not just a physical return, but a spiritual one, symbolizing the restoration of God's covenant with his people. The Ark, carried through the desert, represented God's guidance and presence among the Israelites, a beacon of hope and divine promise. It foreshadows events in the New Testament, particularly the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. The Ark's journey and the trials faced by the Israelites mirror the path of Jesus to the cross, a journey of suffering, sacrifice, and ultimate redemption. The connection between these events highlights the continuity of God's plan for salvation. The Philistines' offering, though motivated by fear, points towards the concept of atonement. Their actions, driven by a desire to appease an angry deity, reflect a deeper understanding of the need for reconciliation with God. This act of offering, though imperfect, was a precursor to the ultimate atonement made by Christ. Just as the Philistines offered a guilt offering to appease God's wrath, the concept of atonement is central to both the Old and New Testaments. These offerings were a way to acknowledge sin and seek forgiveness, a practice that pointed forward to the ultimate sacrifice. Jesus Christ became the ultimate guilt offering for all humanity. His sacrifice on the cross was the fulfillment of the atonement foreshadowed by the ark and the offerings of the Philistines. Through his death, he bridged the gap between humanity and God, offering a path to redemption. He took upon himself the punishment for our sins, satisfying God's justice. This act of selfless love and sacrifice was the culmination of God's plan for salvation, a plan that had been unfolding since the very beginning. The ark, a symbol of God's presence, brought judgment upon the Philistines because of their sin. It was a tangible reminder of God's holiness and the consequences of disobedience. The distress faced by the Philistines serves as a warning of the seriousness of sin. Similarly, all humanity faces God's judgment because of sin. Yet, through the sacrifice of Jesus, there is hope for forgiveness and reconciliation. The parallels between the ark and the cross remind us of the continuous thread of God's redemptive plan throughout history. The Philistines' attempt to appease God through offerings, though understandable, was ultimately insufficient. True atonement requires more than just outward rituals. It demands a change of heart, a turning away from sin and obedience to God. This is where the parallel with Jesus' sacrifice becomes even clearer. Jesus' death on the cross was not merely a payment for sin. It was the ultimate act of obedience to God's will, an act motivated by love and selflessness. This act of obedience and sacrifice opened the path to redemption for all who believe. The events in 1 Samuel chapter 6 provide a glimpse into God's plan for humanity's redemption. The ark's return to Israel, the Philistines' offering, and the subsequent events foreshadow the coming of Jesus Christ and his sacrifice on the cross. Through Jesus, the true Ark of the Covenant, God's presence dwells among us, not in a physical box, but in the hearts of believers. This chapter reminds us that God's holiness demands justice for sin, but that his love has provided a way for atonement and reconciliation through Jesus Christ. Are you ready for the next chapter? Just click here to go straight to it.